Hello and welcome to the KelCast, the Hearthstone Arena podcast where we try to get better without cursing. I'm Keldar, a longtime Infinite Leaderboard Arena player and streamer on Twitch. Joining me as my co-host is another Arena Leaderboard player, Kellen. If you want to find us on social media, you can search for Keldar, that's Keludar on Twitch, YouTube, or on Twitter. All right, Kellen, so what are we doing this week?
Well, this week we're covering the top 5 classes in the new meta. Things have finally settled down after the release of the Forged in the Barrens meta. Well, the new set, Forged in the Barrens. And we're seeing some more consistent numbers now that bans and microadjustments have been implemented. Last week you talked about watch posts and how microadjustments were happening. Well, things feel a little bit more stable now. Well, that's pretty much what we're going to do. We're going to talk about what's good and what's bad.
All right, man. Sounds really good. I'm excited. Yeah, the micro adjustments have had a major effect on finally taking Demon Hunter and Priest out of the top.
God.
As normal as what normally happens, the micro adjustments are very extreme. So usually the top two classes end up on the bottom and the bottom classes end up on the top. And that's kind of what happened again. I don't think I've ever seen a class. We're going to talk about Druid first. I don't think I've ever seen a class go from so painful to draft and play to so insane. It's just funny.
Oh yeah.
So, all right. So let's get on with the show. So first we're going to talk about the well, I think it's now number 2, but it was number 1 for a little bit this week. We're going to talk about Druid.
Is Druid not number 1? I got to look. I'm going to look it right now. Druid's on top. It's tied with Rogue, 54.2%. They're tied right at this exact moment that we're recording.
Oh, okay. So Druid is number close. 1 again. Okay.
Yeah, they're almost identical, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Druid's great. It's fun.
Oh, it's so good. And there's a lot of reasons, but it feels like, as we'll see with a lot of the top classes, the classes that are good are the classes with good hero powers for the most part. So I think Druid is one of those classes with good hero power, right? Like it has the 2-mana ping hero power. Mm-hmm. And it has, if you look at its top cards, so that's what we're going to kind of do. We're going to go through each class. We're going to list the top cards statistically according to HS Replay, and that are in the deck win rate. And so for Druid, we're looking at Arbor Up, Marsh Hydra, Forest Aid, Derailed Coaster, Druid of the Plains, Teacher's Pet, Transfer Student, Carnival Clowns, Imprisoned Vile Fiend, Darkspear Berserker, Acorn Bearer. So basically lots of strong neutrals. And Druid also has a lot of good cards up there. I think Arbor Up, Marsh Hydra, and Forest Aid being their best 3 cards is a pretty good indicator that Druid has some of the best rares and epics that are available to any class right now.
Yeah, and for instance, Derailed Coaster, which is already just one of the best neutrals out there, they can really, really take advantage with Mark of the Lotus being in the meta, which is a 1-mana buff, Power of the Wild, which is a 2-mana buff, and then they have Blessing of Agents, which is a 3-mana buff, which isn't as good with it, but needless to say, they have tons of board buffing. And they can just put out tons of stats. And as I figured out in the very beginning of this meta, stats do matter, unlike the last meta. Stats matter a lot in trades and stuff, so it's really they really have an advantage because they have very good value minions. They have Teacher's Pet, which just gives you so much tempo, and they also just have lots of ways to win. And even without all they still have the weakness of not being able to use swipes and wraths, and they have no board clears or spells from spell damage from hand for reach, but they are very, very good, and they have lots of strong neutral minions.
It kind of feels like that. How Blizzard did a WoW Classic last year. They implemented that. It kind of feels like they're implementing Hearthstone Classic in the current meta. Chillwind Yeti style cards that are just good statted cards that can trade and leave an X1 afterwards. Those cards are great right now. I think the epitome of this is I'm willing to go up to a 4.5 now. Sunwell Initiate, you are right. I hate to say it, but you are right. Sunwell Initiate is the perfect card for this meta. It's a card that allows you to trade and then still have another thing, and then it's 2 more targets. And okay. So anyways, moving past, you were right. What we're going to do with each class is we're going to talk about what cards are winning for Druid, why it's working, and how can you win with it. So why this is working, because we've already gone over the best cards. Druid. So my theory is that Druid is good when neutrals are strong because it has a solid hero power, and also Druid is good when it has powerful class cards. And we're in a meta where both things are true. It has powerful class cards in Arbor, Marsh Hydra, and Forest Aid, and Druid of the Plains, Teacher's Pet, etc., etc. But more importantly, neutrals are good. and that means Druid will always be competitive when neutral minions are good.
And the other thing is that they're the place where they have they have really done a good job at Blizzard at separating the classes to all having very specific weaknesses. Luckily for Druid, at least in the current meta, their biggest weakness, which is basically being able to deal damage from hand, is dealt with by Rush. So they can kind of compensate for their lack of like Starfall and Starfire by using like claw machines and stuff. So it's not like they can't remove anything.
Yeah, that's a huge factor. I think just the addition of Rustborn. Oh my God, that's Rustied
Raider.
Rustied Raider. Like cards like that are just perfect for the class.
Oh yeah.
All right, so Kel, if I was a new player to Arena, how can I win with Druid? What would I need to do to make a Druid deck good?
I mean, really, we drafted a deck a couple of weeks ago, and it went 12, and it was very, very low quality, which it really kind of shows you, like, as long as you have decent curve and you don't get greedy with your picks, like, you need to get the value cards will just kind of come naturally with Druid. But like as long as you focus on taking good curve cards when they're available, like good threes, you need to make sure you don't fall behind. The only way you lose with Druid is if you fall behind. If you don't fall behind and you last till turn 5 or 6, it is very hard to beat them in general. So you just need to make sure you're drafting 1-drops, good 2s, good 3s, and then you try to get as many of the good value cards that are the top cards in their class, like Arbor Ups and stuff for late game, as you can. And you just kind of have to just play the board and you just outvalue your opponent. And it's funny because they can't draw cards, which really shows you how that much value they really have. Like they're not drawing tons of cards or anything. Like they're literally just playing their hand, and they're winning.
I think one of the things I've noticed is that with Druid specifically, you can replace those powerful cards with synergies to find an alternate win condition. So like for example, you can take, instead of having an Arbor Up and Forest Aid, instead you could take a Eccentric Scribe and a Mark of the Lotus, and that is not the same, but those cards have good synergy together as well. So you can replace those incredibly powerful cards with having a good curve and a different set of synergy cards, because Druid is really powerful is really good at creating combos like that.
Yeah, they just have so many cards that are so good.
So many.
Yeah, the thing is they have very valuable class cards, and the neutral cards are also very valuable. So, and when they buffed them with the micro adjustments, they gave them. Pretty much every Druid deck has at least one Druid of the Plains. I have usually either like a Forest Aid or an Arbor Up, or I have and I've been seeing lots of Mark of the Lotuses. And I think as long as you're good at playing tempo, Druid's a really good class. You just have to make sure you're going face enough. I would say as a caveat, although they have a lot of value, you got to make sure you're getting enough face hits in, because you don't have the reach that you had before. So you do need to play. You need to play aggressive enough. Not that you're playing full out aggro, because that's not really as much a thing right now. But
eventually you're going to get flame striked or soul mirrored or whatever. So you need to actually be hitting their face and applying pressure so that your opponent feels like they need to respond. They can't just wait for the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to let people get to their combos in this meta for sure. So does that pretty much cover all Druid stuff?
I guess. Let's move on to Rogue, which is tied, by the way. It's technically second place, like by point, I don't know, 1/100%, but still. It is second place. And so what cards are winning for Rogue? And this list is going to look very neutral, just so you know.
Yeah.
Evil Miscreant and Oil Rig Ambusher. That's the first two, obviously.
Yeah.
And then Derailed Coaster, Guardian Og Merchant, Ethereal Og Merchant, Unidentified Contract, Venomous Scorpion Course. So that's not even the top 10. The rest of the top 10 is filled out with neutral minions, so like Sunwell Initiate and others.
Right.
So it's very clear that Rogue has a couple incredible cards that are from their class, Evil Miscreant, Oil Rig Ambusher, and then everything else is basically a powerful neutral card. Having 2 Og Merchants as in their top 5, I think is a good indicator of what's going on with this class, and so that leads us right into why is Rogue working, and that is, in my opinion, because Rogue is good when neutral cards are good, because their hero power is insane. They have the best. Rogue has the best hero power in Arena, right? Is there
for sure.
Better?
Yeah,
so because Rogue has the best hero power in Arena, when neutral cards are powerful, like Og Merchants, like Venomous Scorpion, like Derailed Coaster, like Sunwell Initiate, Rogue is going to succeed more often than anybody else because most cards everyone has access to. So no one has a huge advantage over anybody else.
Right.
Therefore, the advantage goes to the hero guy. Rogue has a few very powerful cards too, though, because Oil Rig Ambusher and Evil Miscreant are absolutely busted compared to what other classes are being offered. Those two cards are so very good. I mean, if you just look at how good Fire Plume Phoenix is, and then you look at Oil Rig Ambusher, you're already thinking it's the best card in your deck, and then you realize that some of the time it deals 4 damage. So
yeah, like I mean, I remember back when Fire Plume was a thing. I was gonna bring this up. Like I would sometimes people like I think for a while people undervalued the card slightly. How strong it was, and I'd draft 5 of those in decks sometimes. It was one of the best. There was an elemental rogue deck that was built purely around specifically Fire Plume Phoenix. So yeah. I don't know. Yeah. And this is just strictly better. It's got better stats. It's got more pressure. It can potentially do more damage. In every single way. It's like take that card and just it's so much better. So yeah, and they just with Aug Merchants show you because like with the hero power, the flexibility to use an Aug Merchant and a hero power on 3 as your 3-drop. It's basically sometimes as strong as a 3-drop because you're flipping the board already. So like the fact that you can utilize an Aug Merchant that strongly on turn 3 without playing a 3/4 is pretty crazy, but it is the truth because you're banking you bank a hero power, right? You bank a damage, which is more value, and it's just so that it's very good. So with that in mind, how can you win with Rogue? We already know that the top cards are great, but how do you draft a deck that will win with Rogue? And I have some thoughts personally that I want to share. And this next part's going to be the most common thread throughout this whole top 5 classes. Draft a good curve with the best neutral minions. Right.
When the neutral minions are as powerful as they are right now, you should take a good curve because everyone has access to 3 mana 3/4 Sunwell Initiate, 4 mana 5/7. Those cards are hard to beat no matter who you're at. So if you're playing any class, you should always draft that type of thing. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing with Rogue that can be really tough. You have to try not to get too tricky. With Rogue, there's a lot of cards that are really niche little, they make you a little money here and there,
yeah,
but they're not going to pay the whole bill. And I think of cards like Silverleaf Poison is a great example of that, where you're paying 2 mana up front and you're getting 2 mana or 2 cards back, but like you're paying that versus an Arcane Intellect, and I view Arcane Intellect as a better card overall because you don't have to spend the 2 mana on the hero power, and you don't have to have the ideal situation to attack, and there's like a lot of stuff you have to do with Rogue with some of their cards that are good and that you want to take, but it doesn't add up to the same as playing a 3 mana 3/4 Spider Tank. Like you just rather do something simple and under control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rogue's it's very solid. It's doing really well. I've actually been I've been messing around with it. I've gone 12 going kind of on a faster level where my top end is just like literally just like claw machines as a top end, and I've gone 12, but I've also gone 12 recently with a deck where I will say Unidentified Contract is a card that I didn't really get to play with the first time around much because of the way the offering was. And
it was not.
I had a deck
that was bucket time. That was bucket era, right?
Yeah. I had a deck that had recently that won 12 that had Primordial Protector and only 2 spells. It had Backstab and it had Unidentified Contract. That drawing that Unidentified Contract won me at least 5 games.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. So
if you compare Unidentified Contract to Assassinate, it's 2 more mana for a random effect. Yeah. But every effect you can get, aside from I think 1, is worth more than 2 mana off Unidentified Contract. So you're getting an advantage on one of the best rogue cards in Assassinate. So draft that card if you can.
Yeah, and but that deck was very thick. I mean, I had like 2 Vagrants, 1 Proto Drake, 1 Colossus, 1 Burly. I mean, it was like really thick and
feels good. I can feel that deck in my bones. I want to draft that one.
Yeah, so I mean, you can do it a couple different ways. I will say though, this is kind of true with all the classes as a side point, is that like the more discover and card generation that you can make, the better. And card generation is way stronger than just typical just regular card draw because you get to pick a card that you want that's, from 3. So your odds of getting a good card are pretty high. But I think that pretty much covers Rogue, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, let's move on to Shaman. I guess we'll start it off the same way. What cards are winning for Shaman? And this is going to be a little different. You're going to see a lot of Shaman-specific cards here. Whack-a-Null Hammer, Dunk Tank, Venomous Scorpid, which I'll come back to in a second, Sludge Slurper, Torrent, Earth Revenant, Lily Pad Lurker, Derailed Coaster, and Imprisoned Vilefiend. So on first look, it looks like there's 3 out of the top 10 are neutral, but in reality, the reason Venomous Scorpid is 3rd in Shaman is because Shaman spells are so nuts right now. Yeah. Not because Venomous Scorpid Venomous Scorpid's a good card, but specifically in Shaman, it's better than it should be. So you're looking at the top 10, 7 plus Scorpid, so really 8 out of 10 are Shaman cards. And that is because Shaman cards are very, very powerful right now. Every card is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, if you brick, when I say brick, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean if you miss on a discover for Shaman, it is like so rare. I mean, and one of the reasons that I think Shaman particularly is doing why they're working is their spells are really good with dealing with one of the major issues that I see throughout the whole meta, which is awkward board states. There's a lot of value cards and a lot of weird things that happen, and Dunk Tank and stuff like that you can just take care of pretty much any board you want. And that's
Lightning Storm being a guaranteed 3 is a huge difference.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, I hated that being.
Landslide is a great card right now.
Yeah.
There's Shaman has access to more AoE clears than any other class right now by a significant margin. Like Mage is on Flame Strike, Priest is on no one plays Priest, so it doesn't matter. So you're at pretty much Flame Strike or 17 different clears from Shaman. So you're kind of just there.
The other thing is that the spells they do have that are really strong that we didn't even mention, which are Storm Strike and Serpentine Portal, those cards are really, really powerful effects on a turn that really, really matters. So, because a lot of these games are won throughout the meta I've seen on turn 3. Like if you have the Sunwell and the other one doesn't have an answer, like that's sometimes all it takes. Like you coin that card and they don't have a poison Scorpid or they don't have like a 4 attack something. Game sometimes is literally just over.
I think that's really important to say. Like Shaman has multiple cards that would be in the top 10 of any other class, but Shaman has so many good class cards that those cards don't even crack the top 10 because they're usurped by a 5-mana 4/5 that hexes something. Like that's how good the top 10 cards are for Shaman.
I mean the fact that Storm Strike isn't in our top 10 or Serpentine Portal is nutty. And we're not
right.
I mean it's crazy. I mean, thank God they don't have that 10 mana. The storm. What is that? That one that made the
Eye of the Storm.
Yeah, thank God they don't have Eye of the Storm because man, they would be a. And if we haven't even mentioned the fact that you still have to fear the Walking Fountain, which does still win a lot of games. Definitely not as good as it was, but it doesn't seem like health quite matters as much. Like in.
Yeah, your personal health does seem more irrelevant when you're playing Shaman. Not when you're playing other classes, but when you're playing Shaman, it does not. You really have to get the board. So actually, that leads us right into why is this working?
Yeah.
I think it's really clear that Shaman is good when the spells are good, but more importantly, when neutral minions are good. So we continue to come back to these classes that succeed when neutral minions are good. Shaman spells have always been good. They've always had Hex. They've always had Lightning Storm. They've always had whatever.
Right.
But Shaman suffers when they have to fill their random slots up with bad minions. Right now, they don't have to. They can just draft a 3-mana 3/4 at any point in the draft. They can draft a 4-mana 5/7. So all of these nuts, crazy Shaman spells that would normally be, supplemented by Kobold Geomancer don't have to be. Now they can be supplemented by real cards on 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 even, and up to 7, 8, 9, 10, honestly. And that makes Shaman amazing right now. It is the third ranked class, and it's honestly, it doesn't feel like it's that far behind the top 2 classes.
And it's just another the stuff that you just went through is just another example of the after effects of them introducing the core set. Which on top of introducing the core set, they removed a lot of the just junk cards that filled their spell pool and their minion pool with just really bad stuff. So, which was a good, and plus they got the change of their hero power, which, although you don't have the high roll potential, the attack totem is a lot more of a consistent force, I think, in their play. So it's an interesting. It's very, very good right now.
So speaking of that, the next class is actually a huge departure from that. So the first 3 classes are all hugely dependent on good neutral minions, right?
Yeah.
So Warrior, what cards are winning for Warrior is a complete depart, like 100% difference.
Yeah, opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, because Warrior's hero power is, I think no one would argue that Warrior has the worst arena hero power, right? It's just awful in arena. In almost every game, it does nothing. So let me go through the list of the best Warrior cards, and you will understand why that doesn't seem to matter right now for Warrior. Yeah. Outrider's Axe, Troublemaker, Sword Eater, Imprisoned Gnarg, Venomous Scorpion, and Reaper's Scythe. That's the top 6. That is 6 cards that depend on Warrior cards being good. Venomous Scorpion is the only card that is neutral, and it is a card that discovers a Warrior spell. So Warrior does not care about about what everybody else is doing. Warrior cares that they have the best cards we've ever seen from a class. Outrider's Axe is, I mean, when it came out, everybody said that's a 5 out of 5. There was nobody that was like, oh, Outrider's Axe, I don't think that's going to be fast enough or powerful. No, everyone was like, that card's going to suck. I never want to see it. Troublemaker. How many times have you felt like you won the game and your opponent goes, oh, top deck Troublemaker? And you just realize you can't win anymore. Like, I know it's happened to me. It happened to me last week. So it's really common. So Warrior has some of the best class cards we have literally ever seen in all of Hearthstone. And that is what's carrying them. They completely ignore what everybody else is doing, and they just ride that Outrider's Axe to victory. They just keep whacking shit and drawing. Shoot. My first curse during the podcast. I'm sorry. So sorry.
It's okay. I probably won't find it. That one might sneak through.
But anyways, they're running just incredibly powerful Warrior class cards. They just have the best class cards of any class right now, and that's what puts them in top 4. I think what holds them back is that good neutral minions are the best counter to Warrior hero power.
I mean,
that's
Yeah, it's interesting. This is another situation where I feel like a class that really, really benefited from the core changes, because everyone knows like their spell pool was really bad. I mean, they had things like charge and like just terrible cards that were so situational, specifically in arena, were just even worse. Like they were never going to see play in constructed, and they were just terrible in arena. And now, like they, like for instance, if you get a war cache that's discovered somehow, like that card is like every card is going to be insane. Their weapons are all good, their minions are all good. Their spells are now pretty much all good. The spells are like the weakest out of the 3, I guess, but still good. Like you have frenzy mechanics, like you have lots of ways to clear. They are just like, they just have so much they can do.
So one of the things I put in our show notes, actually, when we were talking, is that their class cards are so busted, you may never have to hero. So that's really where Warrior's at. Yeah. So, quick note, how do you draft Warrior? Take the busted Warrior cards. That's it. There's not a lot it's not complicated. Yeah. Your Warrior decks are going to be good or bad. It's not really there's no like mid-range Warrior thing that's close or good. It's, did you get offered the good Warrior cards? Your deck's going to be nuts. It's actually going to be better than every deck that anyone's ever drafted. And
unfortunately this is the class that can't survive by just getting good neutrals. You have to hit the Warrior cards with it.
You do.
You can't just, like, if you can get 3 Claw Machines and a Proto Drake and everything, and that's great. But if the rest of your cards are not some of these top level cards, like it is going to be, and that's why they're at the 50% ish range and not up at the top, because they do rely on you high rolling in a sense of getting class cards offered. But anything that you can get, this is another example. Their class stuff is insane. So like if you can get something that discovers, whether it's through lackeys with Evil Cable Rat or like Scorpions or whatever, you want to just get as much discovery as you possibly can. I would say this is a class where I would highly value getting like Mage Scribes and stuff, because you just want to try to get as much value as you can.
You want more access to your Warrior class cards.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So that brings us to the last class of the top 5, and a class that I've found not quite as good as the others, but still certainly serviceable.
Yeah.
Warlock. And so let's go over the same system we've done with every other class. What cards are winning for Warlock?
So we got Derailed Coaster, we got Soul Rend. That card I've been really having some fun with. Cascading Disaster, Carnival Clown, Shadow Council, Fire Breather, Venomous Scorpion, Guardian Og Merchant, Brittle Bone Destroyer, and Transfer Student. All like nutty cards. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've just lost because they discovered like the game seemed like it was out of reach, and then they discover Shadow Council through a lackey or something, and then boom, game is like all the way over the other way again, flips it. So
Warlock really does seem like it is based on how many mass removal spells you have. Fire Breather, Soul Rend, and Cascading Disaster. And if you want to be honest, like Derailed Coaster, their best card, are 3 cards that take advantage of the Warlock hero power. Warlock hero power depends on having more cards than your opponent, and you can use your life to get those cards.
Yep.
Soul Rend, Derailed Coaster, Cascading Disaster, and Fire Breather all permit you to just garbage time your opponent's creatures while you take advantage of having more cards in hand, and it preserves your life total for a longer time.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I think that's what's going on. It seems like Warlock cards are not that good. They depend heavily on Og Merchants and Transfer Students and random like good wand makers, I'm sure, and other random 1 and 2 drops to make their class good. But it's nice to see that Soul Rend and Cascading Disaster carry them, because those cards they eliminate all those powerful neutral minions really well. So Warlock's able to capitalize on other people's dependence on neutral minions. However, they are not able to defeat a good tempo start if you're trying to compete on tempo. So you really need an AoE Soul Rend or a removal spell of some kind to catch up.
Yeah, if you're going to get a greedier deck, you need to make sure that before you start taking those greedier cards, that you have a couple of the cards that you need. Like, we haven't even mentioned the fact that there's Dread Infernal, an still oldie but goodie. 1 damage AoE. We've got Abyssal Enforcer for a 3 damage AoE.
Yep. Ring Matrons in the format. Yeah. I think that's actually
School
really
Spirits.
interesting.
I mean, we have everything. Yeah.
So like that's one of why is Warlock working? Warlock is good when it can clear the board. Over half of its top 10 cards clear the board.
Yep.
Its hero power plays well when they can trade cards to kill opposing minions. So how do you win with Warlock? You draft all the fantastic removal options, and then you take all the powerful demons that at 6 to 8 mana, because there's a ton of good demons from 6 to 8 mana between Ring Matron, Abyssal Enforcer, Dread Infernal, and anything above that. All of the 6 to 8 mana demons are incredible. That's kind of, I think, where you have to find your victories.
Yeah, and it's funny, we were talking about how Rogue has the best hero power. I think situationally Warlock has maybe the second best, because if you actually have a deck that can take advantage of its hero power because you are good enough health because you've been on the board early enough and you can survive, then you can just win people. You can outcard people. And in Arena, that's a very powerful thing. Honestly, Warlock decks in Constructed don't really use their hero power tons and tons. If you think about it, but in Arena, it's very important to use your hero power. And so they
100%.
can. So, and like I said, there's so many clears. It's crazy. They have, like I said, with all the discovery, it's let's not forget. We didn't even forget. They have basically the best access to lackeys out of all the classes because of the 2-mana 2/2. I can't even think of the card right now. That eats a card and gets the 2 lackeys. So they have that card. Mm-hmm. So they just.
Oh shoot! Wow. Oh my gosh! Why can't I think of it? Cabal. No. Oh no. Okay,
oh no.
I'm not gonna like this. Oh, this is really bothering me.
It's bothering me too, but.
I'm Googling right now. I'm Googling furiously.
He's
Oh my god, that's so annoying. What is?
I've actually never had so much trouble remembering cards that had this meta. I think it's just now it's getting to a point where there's so many cards.
I can't find it.
We're taking a quick small break.
Do 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 do. Do-do, do-do-do-do. Oh, wait. I found something called the Haskell Cabal. What is this? It's a system for packaging libraries. No, that's not it.
Oh, my God.
I have no idea what this card is called.
I'll tell you in half a second.
I can see the picture in my head.
Oh, shit.
Lackey generator. What? Okay, is there a class? Oh, okay, I found a list. Evil Genius.
There it is,
Thank
Evil
God.
Genius.
Oh.
We're such bad podcasters. Holy
yeah, we
shit.
are the worst. Oh, thank God for Google. Thank you, Google. Once more.
But anyway, yeah, they have that card, which on top of it is another nutty card. So they just have, yeah, I mean, and those are the top 5. I mean, they're all classes have very strong. I mean, part of this you have to remember, it is partly that they have very strong cards, but I mean, Druid went from like a 43% win rate to 53%, and part of it is because they micro adjusted these powerful cards so much to swing it the other way. So, you know, and I will say, you know, in general with the meta, what's really nice right now is like all the classes that are in the top are fun to play. And nobody is like so far in front that it feels like you can't win a game. So it's a go ahead.
What they've done, what they've done is they've taken all the cards that break stalemates and they that just ruin games, and they've made them hard to draft. And what they've done is they've created a format where neutral minions dominate. So the only classes that are the classes that are going to succeed in that format are classes with good hero powers and classes that have cards that are better than neutral minions, which is just rogue and potentially warrior and warlock. Other classes are going to depend heavily on those neutral minions, which is what exactly Shaman, Druid, and rogue do.
Yeah, at the very beginning of when they started pushing these neutral cards that were so strong, which I think started back at like Frozen Throne era, like, you know, they started giving like Death Speaker, like cards that really don't have like, they're basically class abilities and neutral cards. At first I didn't like it, but I will admit the one thing it does really do is it does, like you said, it brings the classes together where, you know, even if a class has a bit of a weakness, like Druid can't remove things because they have like they have one card that deals 3 damage for 2 mana, and that's pretty much it. But they have, there's a 2-mana 3/1 that rushes. There's like rush cards. There's all kinds of ways to deal with those kind of problems. So, you know, the neutral cards kind of like hold everything together. And so everybody kind of has an equal chance. And, you know, I will say that from my own personal standpoint, you know, I get frustrated when one class is so good that I'm like, I see like Demon Hunter when it's like 60%, right? And not this meta, but another one. And it's like, if I don't take it, it's like it feels bad because it's like I have this really powerful class. So I don't end up playing a variety of classes because I feel pressured into taking the better class. But, you know, in this meta, it's like really you can just pick whichever one you want and you have pretty much similar odds to win. So, and we'll talk about next week the bad classes, but there's a lot of these there's a lot of these bad classes that honestly I would maybe contend that are a little bit better than some of the maybe the 4th or 5th best class that we talked about today.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk about how you can best win with these classes that maybe are a little bit better than we think. That was a segue. I'm just saying.
Oh,
see, I'm getting good at this. All right, so that's going to do it for the 13th episode of the KelCast. Remember, you can join us 8 p.m. Eastern every week on Twitch, or you can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts every Monday. You can also find me on Twitch, where I stream daily at 7 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Saturday, or you can also look on YouTube or Twitter by searching Keldar. Again, it's Keldar. Make sure you tune in next week, where, like I said, we're going to talk about the other 5 classes, which are considered the worst at the moment in the meta, and we're going to talk about how you can have your best chance of winning with those classes. Remember, also, we want to say thanks to John Laux for the music used in the episode. You can find a link to all of our contributors in the show notes. This has been the KelCast. I'll see you next week.
Okay, can I tell you about a game that's like...
Hold on a second. Before we start, can you please not do what you did last week? I spent 3 hours bleeping you. Fucking 3 hours.
I'm so sorry.
Now, on a side note, it was really funny and it sounded great. But this time, can we just maybe not like 30 bleeps? Like just a little bit, I want the rage to be there because it's good.
Okay, there's anger, but it's because I'm the child of Hades in this situation.
Okay.
Hades is the game that I've been playing. I've been playing a lot of Hades. It's actually infringed on my Hearthstone time. I still play
really
Hearthstone. when I'm in the bathroom or any other time. But still, I've played less Hearthstone than ever in my entire life because I've been playing so much Hades, and the game is freaking sweet, man. It's so good. I'm blown away by the quality of this thing. It's been an absolute blast to just I don't know. It's a roguelike game, so I think most of us played Slay the Spire. It's very much like that. It's just kind of like you go through a run, you do whatever, you get overall big buffs, and I don't know. It's a fun game, and I'm surprised by how much fun I'm having learning all the new details about it while I play it, and I'm also surprised by how much I don't know about the game as I play it and learn, and I learn mechanics, and I learn how to move around, and I don't know. I've had a lot of fun playing it, so that's all. This is not a rage one. I'm not mad at stuff. I think you should play Hades. It's only like a couple bucks, or probably a couple more than that, but on Steam, it's a good game.
It is a fucking fantastic fucking game.
You gotta bleep yourself.
I do, but no, and I can, like, from my perspective, because I played it. I actually want to get back into it a little bit. I never really beat it. I haven't got.
I didn't even know you'd played it. I didn't realize.
Oh yeah. I played it for a while, like a couple months ago. I played it a decent amount. I can say that, like, anyone out there that wants to design a game, I think it's like a game that you would look to learn about game design, because every single thing about that game is like so well done. Like, I look at that game and, like, the music's good, the art's good, the UI is good, the replayability is good. It's fun to play, and it doesn't feel bad when you lose. Like, everything about the game is fantastic. Like, seriously, like, I don't know if I've actually. It's definitely my favorite game of 2020. Like, no doubt. It's like, it's easy. Every once in a while,
it earned its place. For sure.
Because I look at games like in a holistic way, and, like, it's just so fantastic. Like, like I said, and like I said, even if you don't win, like, you get to try out a different way, and it's like you're always learning, and, like, it doesn't feel like, because there's so many different ways that you can, like, build the character and take different abilities, and even some that have downsides, and, like, you always feel like you're learning. It never feels like anything is the same, which is literally, like, the best part of any game. If you can make a game that doesn't have that has replayability, and you want to keep doing it, it's great. So yeah, it's a great game.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
absolutely.
This wasn't as angry as last week, so I'm sorry. We'll try to muster up something a little more,
I'll find my inner rage for next time.
That's all right. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Have a good one.
All right, peace out, everybody.
Bye.